Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Dragon Talk, the official Dungeons & Dragons podcast.
You wouldn't know it.
We are live and official here right now. I love that you guys get to see what happens right before we go on. It is insane. It's just like this every day here at the Wizards Coast. We've got a lot going on this channel right now, don't we?
This is 2 days in a row.
2 days in a
Mr.
row
Tito.
that we have to talk to each other.
I know.
It's a lot.
With
a lot
headphones
to
on.
handle. Then we have, I'm going to do some Dungeons & Dragons news also today.
When?
I know, right after this. We're going to go right into it.
Oh, cool.
I know, great. We got to change this over for Dice Camera Action, which will be coming up at 4 p.m. Pacific time today. It's going to be fantabulous.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
I can't believe it. Yeah. I already did the welcome, but let me do like the other one so we can get right into the
What do you
intro. I don't know.
You've already...
I feel like I need to do like a Twitch intro and then like the actual intro for the Dragon Talk. And you literally just asked me this before we went live.
Yeah.
And I said we're just gonna do one.
No.
And then I'm
but
lying
I didn't
to
know
myself.
You, like, did one.
Well, let's just say this is
without
it.
Me.
Let's just say this is it. This is the
Just,
intro.
like, on your own.
You're just gonna have to deal with what's happening right now.
I already
like
have to deal
your little blue number you got going on there
This?
today. Yeah.
Does it look like an old lady?
No.
Okay.
It looks like a very hip lady with hip blue eyes who is coming at you with Dungeons & Dragons tips on how to be a sorceress. Because you look magical or something like that.
Part-time.
Part-time sorceress, exactly.
Yeah.
Ba-da-ba-bow. So, yeah, we got a lot going on here in the Dungeons & Dragons world. We're going to be talking to Deborah Ann Wall today, right now. She is the star of True Blood and Daredevil, and she is a Dungeons & Dragons player through and through.
Huge Dungeons & Dragons player.
And she's in Force Grey Season 2, The Lost City of Omu. Omu.
Oh.
And that premieres on July 31st at 5 p.m. Pacific time right here on the Twitch D&D channel. And so, yeah, we're talking about all good things with her in this interview segment.
I'm excited that she's talking to us.
I know, right?
I'm going to play it cool.
I
though.
might tell her this, but I've been honestly trying to get her on this podcast since there was this
remember.
podcast. Yeah,
Yes.
because I was like, oh, I heard a thing that she likes Dungeons & Dragons. I listened to a podcast with her and her boyfriend talking about her campaign, and ever since then I've been like, let's do this. We need to talk. This was even before I knew she was going to play in Force Grey.
That was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's now it's a dream come true. It's all happening. It's all happening.
I wonder why she wasn't amendable to talking before.
It's hard to get in touch directly with
You never
people.
got in touch with her?
Never
you
got in
never
touch.
got like a no.
I never
back
got a
off.
no. Right, yeah.
Okay.
I did try to reach out to her boyfriend, and he was like, oh, okay, I could be on your podcast. I'm like, well, I want to talk to both of you about Dungeons & Dragons. So, yeah, no, there was.
I could be on your little podcast.
Exactly.
Oh.
And now I think she had a good time playing with Joe Manganiello during Force Grey Season 2, and that was a big part of it. So we're excited to get that out the
Awesome.
door. Yeah, I know, right?
Yes.
All right. What is going on in your world, Shelley Mazzanoble?
Just working.
Just working?
Working on a couple of board games.
Yeah.
Working on something really exciting for 2018. Now that I've stopped teasing Betrayal at Baldur's Gate, I can start teasing something from 2018.
I know.
But it's like, so I shouldn't even. I'm not, you know what? Not talking
Well,
about
I
it.
know
Not
what
talking
it
about
is,
Not
and
talking
I
about
can say that it has some really fun people have been coming into the office and having lunch meetings. That's all I'm going to say. That's only
like lunch meetings.
my
like,
only contribution to it is that you've been very good, despite what Mike Merle said.
Right?
You've been very good about providing lunch
and
for
I
those
invited
meetings.
that jerk to the lunch too.
Yeah, and we talked about wrestling, if I remember correctly.
Well, because you can't go anywhere with Mike Merles without talking about wrestling.
That's what you do.
what you
But that
do.
project is really exciting. But I'm really excited about the other
know.
project you got that you can talk about.
Betrayal at Baldur's Gate.
Betrayal at Baldur's Gate. Yeah, the mashup of two great gaming franchises into one.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Amazing how that happens.
I know. It's all because
And
you.
don't forget the Axis and Allies Anniversary Edition.
Don't forget that
Coming back at you.
my Russians just attacked Poland and they did really bad. So I pulled back.
Oh,
I
no.
pulled back. Yeah.
You got to know when
I
to
had to
fold 'em.
retreat. Yeah.
Retreat! Hey, do you want to wear my hat?
Yes, I do want to wear your
My
hat.
fuzzy hat
Your
that
Russian
I got
fuzzy
when I was
hat?
cosplaying Diplomacy?
Yes, exactly. I don't think that ended very well for you, so
No,
I'm
it
not
really did.
sure that I
It's
want
the
to do
hat
that.
of hate.
It's the hat of shame.
I was going to say shame, and then I went with hate.
No politics. as Ryan would say.
It's inner office politics.
All of this stuff that we've been talking about here on the D&D channel, including Force Grey, City of Omu, Maze Arcana is starting up back again tonight at Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific time.
They're busy.
Ms. Clicks D&D Risen tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific time.
Too much.
Girl Scouts Glory.
Love them.
High Rollers, Uncharted Territory on Friday at 12 p.m. Pacific time. Then Dragon Friends at 7 p.m. All of this stuff has been laser focused on our Tomb of Annihilation storyline that we introduced at the Stream of Annihilation on June 2nd and 3rd.
Yep.
And it's going to be coming out when? September 19th is the answer. I'm not even going to wait for you to answer it.
Thank God.
I know, right?
I was going to say the 9th.
It's 19th.
Suppose.
You'll remember it. The osmosis of me saying it over and over again will eventually
I know.
penetrate.
I was like answering questions about Storm King's Thunder, like in random meetings. I was like, oh, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Like, Tito.
My sister was asking me about HasCon, or I told her about HasCon, and she's like, "What can I mean?" It's like, well, you can click on the Hasbro.hascon.com, click on the tickets tab, and scroll all the way down to the bottom.
Did
and they're
she
like,
say,
"You've said that a few times, haven't you?" And I'm like,
you
"Yes."
should have your own podcast. You're
No,
really good at
she's
that.
not like a grandma. She doesn't even know what a podcast is. She's such a Luddite that it's yeah. You know, her husband listens to podcasts, and I try to get him to listen.
Does he listen to this one?
He does not. He listens to like space ones.
Oh.
Yeah, having to do with NASA and things like that.
We're close. Probably in the if you listen to this NASA one, you'll love Dragon Talk.
Exactly.
Right?
Right. That's pretty much
Yeah.
one-to-one relationship right there.
Totes.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know that we work with people who have worked at NASA?
Like who?
Like real honest to God engineers.
Who's worked
rocket
at NASA?
scientists.
Who's worked at NASA? Can you tell? Well, I want to find out.
Yeah.
But at least 75% of the people who work on Magic and D&D are
Yeah.
NASA scientists.
Yeah.
All right.
There's actual rocket scientists.
I love it.
I know.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't take a rocket science to figure out
Oh,
that Dungeons
but
and
it
Dragons is a
does.
fun game. That's my catchphrase, and I'm sticking to it.
Sure does.
Awesome. All right, well, we're going to throw it to a quick segment. It's probably going to be some lore or a sage advice. I'm not really sure because we're doing this kind of ad hoc. So we're going to throw it to some bings, some bongs, some smashes, some cymbal crashes.
Yeah.
And
that's what we need.
yeah.
We need symbols.
oh, gosh,
Brian.
can we get cymbals and be like, "Boing." Yeah, all right, cool. We're going to do that. And then we'll throw it to that right about Nizao. That was pretty good.
I loved it.
What do you guys think about that in the chat? You like our coffee mugs? Yes. We actually need to start using the coffee mugs more often. But the problem with that is
I
that
use it all the
we're-
time.
oh, you are
I
using.
bring my own now.
I have this one, which is actually from Durham, North Carolina, that I brought
you
here and
made.
put stickers on.
Well,
yeah.
I have my ugly old plastic water bottle that I have a D&D sticker on.
Yeah.
And every time I come here, I pour the water out of that into my D&D mug.
Which is smart.
So I am propping and ready.
You got it.
Props for Shelly.
Props. Mad props.
Mad props.
Angry props. All right. Well, it's 2:02, and I think we were thinking about calling Miss Deborah Ann Wall.
What if she doesn't answer?
I don't know. What if she doesn't answer? It's a good question.
What if this was too good to be true?
What-
Can we call my mom?
We in that bit, yeah, we'll call your mom. Call her while you're there. We'll do like a Donahue. That was a really pretty good segment of the lores. Did you like that?
I really did.
Yeah, I feel like I know more about whatever it was that was discussed.
It was light as air.
It was light as air. We know that from working at NASA.
Yep.
It's true.
We know the facts.
We know the facts, Jack. Well, you know what? Time to strike when the iron is hot. Let us use the power of the interwaves and ascending stone to try and contact Deborah Ann Wall.
Do we have questions for her in the chat?
No, we do not.
Oh. Well, send them if you want.
Yeah, now's the time.
Now's the time.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, how's it going? This is Greg.
Hi, Greg. Hi, it's Deborah.
Hi, I'm also here with Shelly.
Hi, Deborah.
Hi, Shelly.
I think you have your video on, but you don't need that because we're just doing audio for this right now.
See, is that how I do it?
Yeah, save some bandwidth.
Yeah, no worries.
Love
Save
it.
the bandwidth. The new crusade.
So thanks so much for calling in. We've been. I was just telling Shelly, I've been trying to get in touch with you to talk about your D&D campaign for feels like a long time.
Have you really? Oh, my
Not
goodness.
in obviously not in a stalkerish way, because she would have known if you were. You're not very good at that.
Not very
Yeah, I
good.
was
No.
gonna say.
Yeah, I listened to a podcast that you and your boyfriend recorded. When you were describing your campaign with the Raven Queen, and I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds so fun.
Ah, it was a fun one. That's the first homebrew I ever did. So, it's got some tweaks, but interesting thing is I now use it as like any friend who knows that I do D&D and is like, what is that? I don't know what D&D is. I've always heard these rumors. So it's a great one. Now I've whittled it down to this really kind of great, simple one-off module that I can just be like, hey, come over for 4 hours, play, see if you like it, see what it is. So it's turned into this really like useful tool.
Nice.
That's awesome. Are you the DM when you're playing, or do you do both, player and DM?
No, I just DM when I do that bit, but I play in a different campaign that a friend runs. Yeah, got like 4 games going right now.
Whoa. When did you? So yeah, we always like to ask like when you got started playing Dungeons and Dragons. What's your origin story for becoming a D&D player?
I'm relatively new. It's only been like 5 years, I think. Into it. I've always been really curious about it, but I wasn't even cool enough to hang out with the D&D folk so couldn't get into it then. But I was always interested, and it turned out one of my managers at the time had been playing his whole life and had been DMing for a number of years. And so I told him about it, and he was like, we'll get a group together and we'll start playing. So I played with them for about 3 years, and then just was so interested in it, I started putting together campaigns and running things about 2-3 years ago.
Nice.
That's amazing.
So you were already a well-known working actor by the time you got started.
Yeah, no, for sure. It was definitely like, I think once I found it though, I realized, I don't know, that some of the fun thing about acting, especially with live theater, is the idea that like you're so personally connected with an audience member, right? Mm-hmm. So, you can make them laugh, you can make them cry, those kinds of things. But it almost doesn't even compare with D&D. I mean, there was a moment the other day in a campaign where I had 6 people sitting around the table, and they had tried for they'd already made like 3 or 4 rolls to try and wake this girl up who was in this enchanted sleep, and they were going to give up, and they convinced this girl to try one more time, and it was just enough. And I had like 6 faces staring at me. I just went, her eyes flutter, and they all jumped up and screamed. And I was like, not even in live theater do you get that kind of excitement and a reaction out of people. So it really tweaks that same nerve for me,
Right. Like, because those players were personally invested in what the result was. It wasn't just passive.
Right.
Invested and engaged, and not only that, it like changed their lives for a second, when they woke her up. She was someone's sister, and he lost her for a long time. So it was like this big moment for him.
Now I feel like a little bit like touched by this moment too.
Right. It's a nice. I like to put that into my games. I really like it if the people that they're searching for or the quests that they're going on are really personally related to the characters. Because I do find you get more of those moments where people are like eyes locked with you.
Yeah, and it's also good if especially with the new players, it helps them have something to connect to. Some people are a little tentative about the role playing or how to get into character, so
definitely
it's a good nugget to give them.
For sure.
Yeah.
Did you do a lot of live theater before you started doing TV?
Oh yeah. That's where I started.
Oh, no.
I did theater for about 10 years before I started doing television. Nothing terribly professional, but yeah, I mean, when I was 15 or so, I started doing, even younger, I guess, 13, 14, I started doing theater.
Nice. Shelly and I are both theater people as well. We did some
theater major. Woo.
That's right.
Hey, yay! You. I went to USC, and everyone assumes I was a film school major because that's obviously the big school there. But no, they have a BFA program for theater acting.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe that was UCLA. I was listening to Nerdist podcast with Chris Hardwick. He's always like he did calls down there too. Right. So, interesting. So yeah, we know you. I mean, I first found out about you watching that first season of True Blood, and seeing that your transformation at the end of that season into a vampire. And this is something I always wonder because I didn't read the books by Charlaine Harris, but was that character always going to be a principal? Like, was it always going to be a big part of it, or was that something that happened naturally?
No. Yeah, I mean, Jessica's not in the books.
Oh,
so
really?
That was a completely created character by our writing team. And really, Bill was the main character of that storyline, and the idea was it was supposed to be a punishment for him. So he hates being a vampire. The idea that he would have to make another one, turn this poor innocent girl into a vampire, is like the worst punishment they could come up with. So it was really a foil for him. And the part when I booked it was only 2 episodes. But I think they liked so much what it did for Bill's character, him having to be this kind of father figure and learn to love a part of himself that he didn't before. It's a really lovely allegory in there. And so, yeah, they invited me back for the 2nd season as a regular, and it just blew up from there.
Wow. That's crazy.
That's awesome. How much do you know about your character on a show like that? Like when you're booking it, do you know like the whole character's arc? Or
oh God, not at all. I mean, especially when you're auditioning, next to nothing. Then, I mean, we maybe get scripts 2 weeks early if we're lucky. So that's about as far out as Sometimes if you have a really generous showrunner, they'll sit down with you beforehand and tell you what their plans are. But part of the problem is they have to get it approved by a studio. They have to get it approved by all the writers and everything. So things change and you never really know what's going to stick. So TV is a lot about just acceptance and like, all right, I guess that's true about me now.
Go with the flow.
Kinda, yeah.
Probably good practice for D&D.
That's right.
Yeah.
Very much so, yes.
Did you get your script and were you like, oh, I'm a vampire?
I knew about that, luckily.
How dare he?
I knew about that in the audition. In fact, I was very excited about that. I remember I had this idea that if you drank a lot of blood, like when people drink a lot of wine and they get that like little purple ring in their lips.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I had this weird idea that if you drank a lot of blood, maybe you'd get like a little red like around your lips.
Kool-Aid
like I did that with lipstick. Yeah, like if you drank a lot of Kool-Aid or something like that. I did that with lipstick and in my audition, I remember like eating my tears because they said that like sensations and everything would taste different and look different. And so I really went for it in that audition. I was rolling around the ground.
Oh, they must have loved that.
It was fun. It was really, really fun.
That is cool. And then, as Shelley said, like prepping for a quick turnaround on a TV schedule, it is actually good preparation for the improv that you need to do when playing Dungeons and Dragons.
In a way, I mean, all acting is about acceptance. I mean, like I said, I started in theater, and I started with a lot of classical theater, and the conventions of classical theater are very different than reality and then modern theater. So if you're doing Shakespeare and you hate the guy on page 1, but you love him on page 4, because that stuff kind of happens that quick, you just have to kind of go, well, I can't call the writer and say this is unrealistic. You should rewrite.
Hey, Bill, you made a big problem here.
You just have to accept it and figure out how to make it work. How can that be true? And I like that. I was a math geek, so I like problem solving. I like the idea that this looks like a problem, but in the end, it's going to make a ton of sense, and it's actually going to be kind of brilliant.
It's a good way to look at math.
Yeah.
I only got to this is a big problem.
The math.
That was as far as I could go.
But isn't it fun to sort of like take a mess of numbers and letters and then reduce it down to something simple and understandable? Like that feels very satisfying to me.
No. It's actually giving me PTSD right now. No.
That's funny. Thinking about all the getting down to it. Right?
Yes. Oh, show your work.
D&D is such a math game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I honestly think Shelley and I have talked about this before. We're like that part of D&D is something that the two of us I think don't love so much. I don't know. So many times when I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons, especially if it's a late night and there's inebriants going around, having to add something at the end, I'm always like, oh, someone just add up these dice for me and tell me how much damage my fireball did.
Right.
That's why you have kids.
That's why I have kids and calculators.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think it's why so many people are using like Roll20 and things like that now, because all of that is just sort of like I hit a button and all of my math is done for me. But I'm a big believer. I like drawing maps on big graph paper, and I like, physical die, and I like looking at people around a table. So I'm sticking old school for a while.
Nice. I love that too. I think there's, you can inform both of them, so that you can have someone that helps out with the the math part, but having the tactile sense is I mean, I love maps as well, so that's something that always latches onto.
Yeah, and then you can tell your players the probability of their success. If they, you know, you can just compute that. You have a 76 chance of survival, 76% chance.
If the idea is for it to be an immersive world, if the math is slowing you down, then like, sure, you want to get past that if you can, for sure.
Yes.
Right. So speaking of math, Nathan Stewart from Dungeons & Dragons said that you got your character sheets that we had made for your character for Force Grey, and immediately started being like, "Is this right? I think this might be a little bit different." Is that true?
There were like 4 problems on my sheet, but they were all to my advantage. So I was like, do I say something or not? Because I really want this +4. So I did tell him at the beginning, I felt like I should at least be honest, but they didn't tell me to change anything. So we sort of left it as is. At one point, they gave me an action surge. I don't know why. I was a barbarian. But it was on there, and I was like, I don't know, maybe, because I was like, it's the Wizards of the Coast, right? Like, they own this stuff, so maybe they just house ruled, kind of said, sure, you can have an action surge, you know?
Right.
I wasn't going to use it unless I absolutely had to. And then down the line, Mercer vetoed it, which was the right call.
Probably. And honestly, I think, you know, we've had that thing where we provide character sheets to people and they're like, it's not exactly correct. And mostly that has to do with like editing, like, oh, this character was a barbarian or was a fighter or was a thing at certain times. And then, you know, it gets lost in there.
Well, Nathan was very cute. When we called it out, we were like, "What? Why are there so many problems on the sheet?" He was like, "Well, we were just so excited you were coming." He was very sweet about it.
Well, he said you were also very sweet about it. That you weren't, you know, you were very kind and about pointing out these errors.
Oh, I was nervous about it because I was like, you can't go to like the people who make this stuff and say, "Okay,
you did it wrong."
But it was also like, it was just, you know, like my rage bonus was too high. And again, I was just kind of like, that's a really easy thing to look up, but nobody said that, you know, it was a problem. So I sort of let it go and I got my extra rage bonus, and I don't know, we needed it. I don't know how much I can reveal. I don't know when this is coming out, but there are definitely some tough battles there in which I needed a little extra rage.
Nice. So yeah, well, we'll be doing the premiere next Monday, July 31st at 5 p.m. Do you think, you know, do you watch games on Twitch at all? Have you watched any of Matt's stuff on Critical Role or anything like that?
I have just started watching because they invited me to come and play once, and I watched it, and I think the commenting scroll that goes on simultaneously scared the crap out of me.
Oh no.
And I was like, I was still feeling like D&D was really mine. Yeah. And so much of my life is so public that it was like, this brings me so much just uninhibited joy. And I just didn't feel like I could open it up to criticism. So I turned it down, and I was a little wary of Critical Role for a while because it felt like anyone could just write in and be like, actually, you're doing it all wrong and you should have done this, you know, and which didn't feel like the spirit of D&D to me. So after we played the game, and of course Matt is so wonderful, and I learned so much as a new DM from him and have totally stolen what he does from my own games. I've started watching since then, and I just sort of like put a note card in front of the comment scroll. I literally have Post-it that I put over that box so I don't have to be aware of it.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's valid. I mean, I think a lot of people get value from, you know, having the back and forth with the chat, you know, especially if it's a smaller scale. But one of the things that I think Matt would even say, I don't want to speak for him, but like the fact that there's so many people watching Critical Role at once. The thing that always gets me while watching them is that the speed of how fast that scroll goes almost is intimidating unto itself.
Right. Well, and also I want to be like, are you really watching if you're also typing? And it's one of those, I'm not a multitasker, I'm a unitasker. I really can only do one thing at a time. So the idea that like someone could simultaneously watch, fully take it in, and comment and have opinion, it gets really out of my range.
Yeah. So I totally understand that, and I also understand the need to have certain joys that are separate from, you know, a public life. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, D&D has become a really integral part of my life. Just because there are so few things that don't involve some kind of anxiety or worry. I love acting. I've done it my whole life. It brings me a crazy amount of joy, but there's so much stress and anxiety that goes with it that it is rarely ever just purely joyful. And the wonderful thing about D&D is that pretty much every time I play it, it is nothing but joyful. There's just nothing else in my life that gives me that. So
that's awesome. And it's a good. Now this next question will make sense because Nathan said to ask you right when we were taping Force Grey season 2, how many hours of Dungeons and Dragons you had played in the previous 4 days.
I played D&D 4 days straight. Force Grey were the last 2 days, so I played 2 days. I played the 2 days beforehand. Wow. I played the Saturday and Sunday before we shot. I had my homebrew game, and I had we're doing Curse of Strahd. I'm playing in Curse of Strahd.
Nice.
So that was fun. So I got to play in Curse of Strahd, then I got to run a really fun game the next day. I might have had another one in there. I'd have to go back and look, but yeah, I had a really full 4 days of D&D.
Wow. So 72 out of the 4 days
Something
there.
Like that. Exactly.
That's insane. Because when you guys, how many hours did you tape Force Grey?
I mean, it's somewhere like 8 hours or something like that each day. And so it was a lot.
With the cameras on and everything, that can be draining.
Rolling, yeah. I mean, I could feel the lulls. You could feel where we were like, we just ate. We're getting a little tired. Then Matt would introduce some new, challenge to get around, and we'd all kind of perk up and get excited.
That's cool.
Like a good DM.
Exactly.
So did you know, other than Joe, did you know any of the other group members before you got there?
I did not, no. But D&D is a really great way to get to know people.
Yes,
even
for sure.
Playing other characters. You see a lot of who people are. It was fun, too, to see Dylan play a druid. Druids, I hadn't really ever played with a druid before, or hadn't done one myself or seen anyone do it, and so I was a little confused about that class. I couldn't quite get the gist of it, but it's such a creative class, and the way that he plays it's so out of the box, and the helpful things he did. It really opened my eyes to the possibilities of the kind of. I've always played fighters, so this idea that you could kind of circumvent problems with creativity was sort of a fun thing to watch him do.
So you always play fighters. What drew you to that kind of class?
Potentially the simplicity of it. I also think that I like adding my own flavor. So sometimes a druid, in a way, because it's all, you can say, well, I turn into a brown bear, and that's already so colorful and interesting. The fun thing about my barbarian, Jamila, is that really all she does is hit things hard. So all of the color has to come from me, and how she hits, or what she decides to do, or whether she spits in their face at the same time. So I like the simplicity of the action, so that I can create the world a bit more colorfully. Yes, I mean that kind of thing is fun. Also, it makes the die rolls really easy. I can just grab 2 d20s and a bunch of d6s and 8s, and I'm ready to go. I just can I always know what my rolls are, so I can get through them fast. Particularly with the barbarian, where you might have 3 attacks and advantage. You just kind of want to be able to roll through them quick, so you don't hold the game up.
Yeah, right. That makes sense. Yeah, and I definitely see the idea that a ranger is very kind of a specific character type unto itself, and that with a fighter you can kind of put your own spin on it, right? You can make it be like, oh, I'm a 2-sword fighter, or I'm a a fighter who has roguelike tendencies.
Or a fear of blood.
Or a fear of blood.
Yeah. I'm actually playing a ranger now in the Curse of Strahd, so
cool.
So I like it, but I think I definitely play I'm not a beastmaster. I'm a hunter, So I definitely play it with a bent towards fighting.
Nice. Well, Shelly mostly does magic using, so I think you two would be a good good combo.
We could be
Team
a
up.
good party. Yep.
Well, I need to take on a spellcaster at some point, just to get it under my in my gut, because I'm intuitive spellcaster yet. So that's sort of I think next game I play, I'm definitely going to force myself to do that. Maybe a bard. I think bards are really interesting.
Bards can be fun, yeah, because you can do basically anything. I mean, I liked making bards that were theater people just because
they kind of are, but
you are, yeah.
Right. So it was a nice way to be like, I'm a theater producer in a fantasy world.
It's not role playing.
It's not real role playing.
It's you.
Exactly.
You're playing yourself.
But I like the idea of being like the Jim Broadbent in Shakespeare in Love, like, you know, wanting to like put the show on and make it happen, you know. I love that.
I was going with Matthew McConaughey in Sing, his character.
Oh,
Buster. What was that? Buster Moon.
Oh.
Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's who I was picturing.
Got lots of characters to draw from there.
I like bards because I feel like they start out a little slow, and then all of a sudden they can like kill you with a word. So I think it's sort of fun to be like, whoa, where'd you come from? Suddenly you're level 6 and I can't handle you anymore.
Yeah, they have the awesome spell in 5th edition that's Vicious Mockery, which is basically
I do love that.
You insult them until they feel bad about themselves.
Yep. They're like an 11-year-old girl.
And always challenge your players to come up with good burns. That's the hardest thing.
Yeah.
Well, we love so Pasane, who's playing our bard in Force Grey, is so wonderful because we always make him sing as his bard, or do his power chord, you know, because his lute is his arcane focus or whatever. So yeah, so every time it's like power chord and that character dies, you know.
Yeah, we've heard that he has some. He even has a couple of raps in this.
Oh gosh, I'd have to remember. I mean, I think he did all kinds of things. I mean, we really put him under the gun to be put himself out there as much as he could.
I love that he's playing the female bard who can wreck shit. Like that's amazing to me.
He was my sister, and like not my literal by birth sister, but we were like, you know, adventuring team sisters on that campaign.
So cool! I can't wait to see all these episodes. And what's cool about us, because you know we've been on the D&D team and paying attention to everything that's been happening as far as putting Force Grey together, but I haven't seen any of it yet.
Really?
Yeah.
So you guys I can't spoil you either. Oh, good. Good.
I know, right?
We've only heard. Nathan and Bart were teasing it pretty good yesterday, but they weren't given too much.
They're allowed to. I'll get in trouble, or maybe I'm a little brainwashed by Marvel. You know, we have to be so careful. We're all shock collars in case we say the wrong thing.
So what's gonna happen in the Punisher, huh? Shocking grasp.
Well, can you tell us more about your character? Is she a character that you've played before, or is this the first time? Is this her debut?
Yeah, this is her debut. The guys at Wizard of the Coast put her together for me.
Incorrectly, but
incorrectly. But they did. But we did talk about it a little bit. At first they wanted me to play a cleric, like a 6th level cleric, and I wrote back immediately. I was like, I'm not much of a spellcaster. I don't think I should jump into a cleric at 6th level.
Yeah, that's hard.
And you know, so they adjusted things and made this amazing barbarian, and I sort of gave them a little bit of the backstory that I was interested in. I knew that they wanted her to be from Chult, so I just sort of created this little backstory about being shipwrecked there, and yeah, I like the idea that she was. You know, I'm not always very confident myself, so I wanted Jamila to be super confident because I was so nervous about coming in and doing Force Grey. So I thought, well, I'll play a really super confident character, and then that'll mask how nervous I am.
Oh, does that work?
That's a good idea.
It does, because in a way, it's easier to kind of believe in yourself when you're pretending to be someone else.
It's acting.
A little bit. So yeah, so you know, I made her like beautiful muscles and just like, you know, just think she's God's gift to the world. She's gonna save everyone because she's so strong, you know. I even had a DM recently. I played Jamila again, and she was like, I wrote her my little backstory, and she was like, haha, for that I give you 1 flask of endless oil to smooth all over your muscles.
Oh, nice.
So I used that whenever I could.
Nice. She's got bodybuilding skills going on too.
Exactly.
That's
Gotta
cool.
make a living.
Yeah. And as a barbarian in Chult, you kind of have to be okay with the heat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, not a lot of furs going on for you guys.
Definitely very exposed. Why would you cover muscles up like that if they're that beautiful?
Exactly.
See, that's Jamila talking right there.
Jamila knows. I'm gonna borrow some confidence from Jamila.
Nice.
We all should.
I know, right? Just fake it till you
Jamila.
make it. That's
Thanks,
what you do.
Jamila.
Yeah.
So what was it like for you? Because you had not played D&D in front of cameras before. Was it walking in there? Was it much different, or did you just settle in and just like you've always been there?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it felt really natural and fun. I think I was worried since I haven't been playing it for very long. I was worried that I would be really out of my league. But in a way, because I play so often, I've kind of caught up nicely.
Yeah.
I didn't actually really feel that behind, which was really gratifying in a way. So yeah, it really just fell right in. I just knew I was just gonna look at my fellow players, and I was gonna look at Matt, and I was really gonna make it all about this group, and whatever the cameras caught, they caught, and try not to worry too much about it.
Nice.
So you haven't seen have they shown you any of the footage or anything?
No, I think I saw a trailer a while ago, maybe.
Right.
Oh yeah.
We just it was just today actually. It went out on the AV Club, the Onion AV Club.
Okay, cool.
Oh,
Check
it's
it
out
out.
there. It's out there.
Yeah.
Go look.
So, did you know when you were filming True Blood with Joe Manganiello that he was also a D&D fan?
Well, this is the funny thing. So Joe and I were on the same show for 5 years, 6 years. I don't remember what season he came in, but we were on the same show. But I didn't work with him until the day they killed him off True Blood.
Oh no!
That was the first day we worked together.
He mentioned that too when he was in here, that like you guys were on almost like separate shows, and I had to go back mentally to be like, oh yeah, they didn't really combine those storylines.
Like I saw him a bunch, like at table reads, and we would be on the same day or something like that. But we didn't actually ever have like just hangout time. Mm-hmm. And it's also something that I don't know. I definitely bring up D&D more often now with people because I'm more confident in my identity surrounding it. But back then, I think because I was new and because I didn't know how accepted it would be, I was younger. I think I kept it more to myself. So I don't know that we would have found out. But now it's brilliant. I mean, he has a whole dungeon in his house where he plays. So I am glad to have Joe Manganiello as a friend now that I know about his D&D stuff.
That sounds pretty awesome.
I know, yeah. We've seen the pictures from when Nathan has been there, and all of the miniatures that he has and things like that. It's insane.
It's so great. It's just great. I'm a firm believer in being a kid for as long as you possibly can be, and I feel like his little dungeon is what every young D&D player would dream of having. So.
And older.
Yeah.
That's right.
Young at heart D&D players.
So you must have always had an interest in fantasy, I'm guessing. Like growing up, did you read The Hobbit or Dragonlance books?
Not so much, actually. I'm not a big Tolkien person. I liked children's literature, like classic children's literature, so like Edgar Eger and Arthur Ransom. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't ever really huge on fantasy. I think what draws me into D&D is storytelling, mysteries, puzzles. My homebrew game is full of puzzles. And locks and things that they have to find their way through, and there's always a mystery, what happened to the queen. So that's the kind of stuff that pulls me in, I think, more than the dragons and I haven't memorized the monster manual. I think in a lot of other people who are drawn to this game, that's the first thing they do.
Right.
Instead, I set right down to going, okay, I'm going to create a really great mystery for these people to solve.
That's kind of cool. So yeah, now's a perfect segue into talking about your campaign, because it feels like a lot of what you just mentioned is what you were describing in that interview.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, right before I left New York, I got a bunch of wood pieces and I cut them into blocks, and then I cut holes in them and I put pegs, and I designed this puzzle where they only fit together to create a cube in one order. And just split them up, and I put the blocks in all the different rooms of this castle that they were going to explore. And cool. It turns out if you make the cube and then insert it into the vault, that's what opens the vault door. But I loved that I could actually give them a physical puzzle to solve. because it's fun to kind of go in and out of theater of the mind and then have something physical to really look at and play with.
Yep.
So yeah, I do crossword puzzles every day. I'm a big puzzler, and so yeah, I end up putting a lot of stuff like that in there.
That's super neat. And then you were also describing the even just the moment from, was it this weekend, or like the kiss of you know, that seems very fairy tale, you know, classic high fantasy stuff too. Is that throughout your campaign?
I guess so. I like the idea that people, I mean, in the end, what it is that if any of my people are listening, don't turn away now.
Put your fingers in earmuffs.
Yeah, put your fingers in your ears. You know, essentially, it's the queen's vanity that gets her into trouble. So I like the idea that even though there's a witch that curses her, it was sort of her own doing that brought her down. So yes, I think that's a fairy tale kind of what's the word I want? Not quite archetype, but motif. Yeah, that's sort of a fairy tale theme. So I like that idea. I like the idea that you know, I like putting, I'm a girl, so I like putting women as the big bads or the rulers of the town or things like that. I think that's always sort of fun to switch that up a bit.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
I've been thinking about that for you know, starting playing Dungeons and Dragons with my girls. They're 6 and 4, and they love things like, you know, Sophia the First and which you mentioned yesterday too. We're giving big mad props to Sophia the First.
Seriously. Gotta watch that.
But I think actually Sam Riegel from Critical Role is the voice director for that. So there's another connection.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. But in watching that show with my girls, it's like pretty much D&D stories. With that tint.
A lot of kid cartoons are.
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out when I do, you know, I'm a little bit nervous about starting with D&D with them because I want to make sure that they get it and they don't, you know, reject it immediately. So like I'm trying to think about ways to use those stories that they might be familiar with to kind of draw them in.
Definitely. I mean, I think part of what D&D is great is it does appeal to that kid in you, that kid that likes to play make believe, that wants to save the poor townsfolk, you know. Those are the best games when you really go, I'm going to be a hero.
Right.
Yeah, and especially be a woman hero, like and then showing that as an example for them, because I want them to be do you watch Game of Thrones at all?
I don't really know.
Oh, okay. Well, my rallying cry when my wait, what's that?
I play D&D. I don't have to watch.
I wanted to make sure that got out there.
Say that again.
I live it.
But there's the two characters, Arya and Sansa, and one of them is definitely way more in the high fantasy princess mode, and one of them is the you know, gonna go out and do stuff and be an adventurer type mode. And I was like, I want to be my kids to be Arya, not Sansa.
To be the adventurer.
You might have a Sansa.
But
I
now,
don't know, though.
Well, with the way the story's going now, they're both badass women, so it doesn't really matter.
There's definitely an Arya in your family.
Yeah, for sure.
He's so cute.
I know.
So would you ever consider maybe writing some adventures or like writing more about your campaign and putting it out there to the public?
Especially that introductory adventure you were talking about at the beginning.
My Raven Queen?
Yeah.
I mean, it's already been through like 4 drafts, even since I did that podcast with EJ. So, you know, I've been revising it and putting it down. I mean, it's the kind of thing that maybe down the line I would release for free just to see if people like it. I don't know. Sure. Yes, that's a dream. I don't know if I'm good enough to do it, but that doesn't mean I won't dream about it.
I'm sure you are.
I'm sure, dude.
Yeah, you got to fake it till you make it, like you said.
That's it. Jamila will release some.
Yes, right. Just put it under Jamila's name.
I put it under Jamila's name. Yeah. I won't ruin my acting career.
Pen name.
So are there any fun moments that you think you can spoil from Force Grey season 2 that you know, maybe with Utkarsh as Hitch or
well, Utkarsh is so wonderful because he's not really a D&D player,
right?
But I like, this was like the 3rd time he ever played in his life or something like that.
Really?
But I think it's so important that we show that, because I do think that there can be some snobbery, some elitism around surrounding nerdy stuff for some reason. Maybe because we've always been bullied, we feel like we have to assert that back or something.
For sure.
But I love reminding people that D&D is a game about imagination, intuition, just going with your gut. And I love that Utkarsh is playing because he's not a power gamer or a rules gamer. You know, he's just going, hey, I want to do this crazy thing. And we go, okay, great, let's figure out how you do that. And that really is kind of the best way to play. I know a lot of times with my players, I have to remind them, like, don't tell me you want to do a nature check. Tell me, do I know what this plant is? And then I'll ask you to do a nature check. You know, like, try to stay somewhat in the world and not think too outside of it. So he's a terrific player because he doesn't know how to go take it too far, you know?
Right. I love that too. And I think one thing you just mentioned there made me think of another group we've been showing on this Twitch channel is Girls Guts Glory. And they're, 6 women who just got into Dungeons and Dragons like in the last year or so. And so, like Utkarsh, they're a little bit not sure of how the rules of it work. But the one thing that they latched onto, same with Utkarsh, was the staying in character even when they're rolling the die. So as they're saying like, oh, I got to 16, they're doing it in the accent of their character.
Super fun.
Yeah. And, as you mentioned, there was a little bit of like, oh, they're not, they haven't been playing for years. They don't know all of the ins and outs and the tropes. And we got a little bit of comments about that. And I think it was important for us to show that, yes, these players are new, but that's okay. And it's actually, you were new once when you started playing, and it's okay to do that in your 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s. Like, it doesn't matter what time you are in your age when you start playing Dungeons and Dragons, as long as you can latch on to that imagination that you had as a kid.
Yeah, that the spirit of it can be found at any level. I really think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, so in terms of spoilers, I mean, my favorite moment, and Matt and I talked a lot about this as we were talking about sort of DMing, and I was, picking his brain about things. There's towards the end, and I won't spoil it, there's an incredible moment that has to do with my character failing an ability check, or even an ability saving throw. And the thing that Matt and I really talked about a lot is how sometimes failures are even better than successes because they push story. And and instead of going, damn it, I didn't do it, go, oh great, now I get to dive wholeheartedly into living what this experience is for this character. And it just led to this incredible moment between me and Joe, and now Jamila has this thing that sort of changed about her that will, and Joe too, that will kind of live on if we continue to play with them. And I do it again, like, I think it's a really important moment to show new players and to remind older players that it doesn't matter. There is no success and failure. There just is experience and story.
Yeah. And even character death is something that a lot of people will be like, oh no, I can't believe my so-and-so I've been playing for 12 levels is dead, right? And you're like, what great drama doesn't have some death in it?
Yeah, now we can avenge your death. It's a thing now. So I think it's sometimes the failures are better than the successes. And again, like, I have to encourage my players sometimes. If you roll an insight and you roll high and you roll low, you have to go with that. Now you think that person is the most trustworthy person you ever met, and just like dive in, drink the ale they give you because you think they're awesome,
I love thinking of them as improv cues, like if you're doing like an improv comedy show and you get cues from the audience, like that's what the dice rolls are. They're being like, all right, well, here's the thing that you should think about and talk about. Go.
Yeah.
Well, one of my favorite moments in one of the early Critical Role moments, and I don't remember the names, unfortunately, but the guy who plays the Dragonborn sorcerer, there was a moment where someone was like, oh, no, let me roll it. I've got a higher. He goes, excuse me, I have a +1 intelligence. I will do that roll. He just really dove into the idea that I might not be that intelligent, but I don't know that,
Right. I love
but again,
that.
that spirit is so important, and really, it really makes the game.
Yeah. What kind of people are in your campaigns? Do you play with other people in the entertainment industry, or is it people outside of it?
Yeah. Well, my homebrew group. It's one of the players is Janina Gavankar and her boyfriend. So Janina was on True Blood.
Oh, no way. Who
And
did she play? Who did she play in True Blood?
Luna. So
Oh,
she
okay.
was involved in the werewolf story.
Nice. Yeah.
Oh no, sorry, not the werewolf. The shifter story with
Mhm.
Sam. And sorry, it's all animals. Yeah, so she and I have stayed really close, and so she and her boyfriend play. And then Tommy Walker, who was a Fisk henchman on Daredevil, we've gotten close, so he and his wife play. And then Doug, who was a writer and showrunner of Daredevil season 2, he and his son play. So it's a really great group of like fun people who are also storytellers and actors, and they're wonderful. They're just so open to whatever happens, and it was interesting because we have one young player, and I haven't played with a lot of kids, but he's really fantastic. He wants to be so noble. So there, sometimes the older players who are more cynical, they want to go talk to the barkeep, but like he finds the guy who's crying in the corner and goes over to him and says, sir, how can I help you? Oh, your children have been taken? Please, I vouch my, my sword to save their lives. Like really lovely, great. He does a really great job of, he just wants to be the hero that saves the town. I love it.
That's really sweet.
Yeah.
So were any of them new to D&D before they started playing with you?
All of them were.
They were all new. Wow. You
6
are
new
converting
players.
people.
Yeah.
That's kind of been my main thing.
You're doing the Lord's work.
I know. I don't
Hello,
know. I know. I don't know a lot of D&D players because I haven't been in that community. So pretty much everyone that I play with, I've drawn into the fold.
Right. Is it something that you mentioned how you didn't talk about it a lot on the sets, but there's a question here in Twitch from Richard McSunday that says, is that how you got to know the showrunners from Daredevil who played it? Did you like slyly mention it? Oh, by the way, I played Dungeons and Dragons, and and then are you ever going to get other cast members from other shows you're working on playing?
Well, I actually didn't know any of our showrunners played D&D. Obviously Doug didn't before because his first time was playing with me.
Right.
I don't know who else did. So Richard will have to answer his own question about who plays. But yes, actually, sometimes like any D&D player, I'll build characters kind of just for fun. And we have a lot of downtime on set. So sometimes I'll like sit with someone and be like, hey, you want to build a character? So, we'll sit there and build characters. And it was funny because I did it with Charlie once. We didn't even finish. He just got through like the first couple of boxes. But it was funny because I said that to someone, and I think he wanted to be like a half-elf paladin. Like I just let them pick, and we were just building whatever we wanted. And I said that, and someone was like, no, Daredevil's not a paladin or something like that. And I was like, no, we're not trying to build Daredevil as a character. We're building whatever Charlie Cox wants to play in D&D. Like it was this weird mix-up, like the kind of thing. But yes, we'll just build characters for fun together.
Reality mixing with the fantasy, but the
Right.
fantasy is the reality and the fantasy.
That person was trying to create a meme of like, oh, Daredevil is this and Batman is this, and that's exciting. So I think fans just really want to get more casts playing D&D together. I think as someone who's a fan of watching those shows, and as Dungeons and Dragons, there's something really attractive to.
It's good team building.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
Well, we know Scott Gimple a little bit, who's the showrunner of The Walking Dead. He used to be involved in improv and comedy writing, which my boyfriend did a lot of, and so we know him a little bit. When he found out I was DMing, he's a returning player. He's let go of it for a number of years, and he wanted to play again. So he pulled together a group that involved a couple of Walking Dead cast, and I ran my Raven Queen one-off for them.
Oh, sweet.
So we had a fun
awesome.
time last Christmas for that. Yeah.
I love that. I love something that I was really surprised about when I started working here at Dungeons and Dragons, like not too long ago, but like, I don't know. I came from the East Coast. I was always very much like, a dungeon, like you, like I was a dungeon, but I didn't talk about it that much amongst peers for many reasons. But then, when I came out here to the West Coast, everyone was talking about how everyone in Hollywood, well, not everyone, but a lot of people in Hollywood play Dungeons and Dragons. And it blew my mind that it was not just, the people you'd think of as the creative people, but it was the makeup artists, it was the costumers, and everybody. It's got this like cachet of oh, you play, oh, I play.
You play. Somebody told us that D&D was like a secret handshake in Hollywood, that you could be in a meeting with a bunch of people and drop a little slide D&D obscure reference, and like a few people would be like, oh yeah, like across the table, you're like, yes, these
I'm
are
gonna
my
have
people.
to use that.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
We'll send you some T-shirts that don't overtly say D&D, but it'll be like the green devil mouth or something.
There you go.
See who stops you.
There you go.
That's the way to do it.
Yep.
For sure.
People, it's like the Freemasons.
Yes.
We just need like a call word,
Right. Have the ampersand as our, oh, do you have the ampersand tattoo? Yes. Okay, you can go in. Cool. Any fun things to leave us on about Force Grey Season 2 as it premieres? Anything? I know I've been asking you that a bunch, but and you've been really pulling out of the brain tissue.
Nobody has told Greg anything. He's dying to get something.
We're impressed with everyone. We are a good, tight-lipped group.
Yeah. And you mentioned the future. Like I love that everybody gelled so much together, at least from the conversations that I've heard so far. So
it went really well. It was just great.
Would you do a season 3 if there was one?
Oh my God, in a heartbeat.
Nice.
I'm telling you, it was like my 2 favorite days of my life. Last year, I'll qualify it with that. But I couldn't believe that I had waited so long to do it. And it's inspired me to say yes to more, because that was something that I had turned down before out of feeling insecure, and now I'm just so glad that I did it, that when opportunities like that pop up about other things, I'm like, well, give it a shot. Maybe it'll be the best 2 days of the year.
That's all.
Sweet. Well,
good. Strike while the iron's hot, Greg.
I know, right? Come up to Seattle.
Stream of Annihilation.
Now's the time.
2018.
You can visit the offices, the people who make it. You can yell at the guy who made your character sheet.
No, I want to shake his hand. He gave me all this great stuff.
He was trying to help you out. Little did he know, Jamila doesn't need your bonuses.
Right. I don't need no accent surge.
Has thighs that could crush a man's head.
That's all that's important. Yeah, right. And you can see the artist. You can see Sean Wood, who did a lot of the the art behind Jamila.
Oh, that's so good. The artwork. I just loved it. When they sent her over, I was like, oh, that's perfect.
Absolutely.
It was just so great.
He is super talented. Glad to have him on board. So yeah, well, great. I can't wait for more to come, and I'm looking forward to the premiere on July 31st. Yeah, and you're more than welcome to come in, and I know that the chat might be a little bit intense, but it's always fun to have people who are involved, say a few things. So you're more than welcome to next Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Come and drop into the chat. Say hi.
This is the funny thing. This is why we decided to do this here. I am literally going to be at the Defenders premiere at that time.
What's more important, really?
That was the thing, is I was like, if it was just like earlier in the day, I would totally blow off hair and makeup to do that. But I don't think I can skip the premiere. But I was like, this is so exciting. I have 2 premieres on the same day.
That is pretty exciting. I'm excited for Defenders, just as a fan of all that stuff too. So
it'll all be super fun. I will say confidentially to the world in the podcast that I'm a little more excited about Force Grey. Don't tell my bosses. But,
Won't.
But that's just because this was such a unique experience for me.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Deborah, for coming on and chatting with us. And we'd love to have you on at least again. I feel like there's so much more to delve into.
Well, once the show starts airing, then we can get into like the things that we're watching.
Great.
Anytime.
Open invitation.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys.
Talk to you later.
See you later. Bye.
Bye. I love her.
I love her too. She's such a pleasant person to talk to.
I might have a new girl crush.
She's very good at like getting people into Dungeons and Dragons. I feel like we should like have a line of cash flowing to her to continue to keep doing
people
that.
Right and left. I can't believe she's only been playing for 5 years.
I know.
I was under the impression that she grew up playing. I was waiting for her origin story, and she was going to be like, "Oh, my older brother, my older
sister
got me into it when I was 6 years old." Yeah.
But I love that story because she's right. There's so many people who could get into it now who hadn't in the past.
Yes.
And now with this is a big part of what we're doing as far as getting all this streaming and all this stuff here on the D&D Twitch channel. But it's like watching people play, watching her play, it's so infectious to other folks to want to jump in.
She's right, too, about having the fear of people calling you out because you don't know every rule and stuff, because that does exist. And I have always also said, I don't ever want to play D&D in front of an audience because I know nothing.
You can barely come on camera to talk in this
I
podcast.
can barely talk. Period. But to like play this game and like know all these people that know way more than I do, it's like I can't I'm always referencing the player's handbook.
Right, but then she was like, "Oh, I got this. It's no problem." And I think
know.
there's a level of I said it a couple times. Fake it till you make it. Like it doesn't matter so much about the minutiae of each individual rule.
But if you go into it, because I've also met players that do know everything, and they're extremely kind and welcoming, and like, I'm gonna help you. You want to know how to do that? Here's how to do. Like, they're not like condescending or rude. Like, oh my god, how long is it going to take her to look up this spell?
Right.
So they are very helpful.
Even me as a DM, like I have never been the one that's like, I know every rule, and I'll just be like, this is what we're doing right now, and I'll look it up later.
Sometimes I'll just be like, oh, magic missile, because I know how to.
Or do you get a player who does know it all, and I lean on them to be like, oh, can you look that up while we do something else?
Yeah.
Always things to do. So.
So it's people of all different levels. Everybody's having fun. We're all playing the same game. If you know more, good for you.
Big respect on Deborah for jumping in and doing it with that group.
How does she have time to play all these games?
I don't know.
I have one job, and I don't have that much time to do it.
I have 2 kids, and I don't have any time to play unless and I keep saying it. Like I want to make sure it's the best possible experience for them, and that is the wrong way to think about it.
No, but I think you can just start playing and not tell them it's Dungeons and Dragons unless they like it, and then you're like, oh, that's D&D.
Oh, by the way,
if they hate it, then just be like, oh, that game is called Muffins and Misfits.
Yeah. I think what I have to need to do too is get Edna, the 6-year-old, away from Fiona, because I feel like Fiona's a little too young, a little too rambunctious, and it might detract. But Edna's like, we keep talking about it, she's like primed.
She's ready
to get into it. And Fiona is too, but like I feel like there's attention gap there.
Well, we have our neighbors, they have a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
And his dad used to play, so he's been wanting to play again.
Yeah.
So maybe like him and his son and Edna and you and Bart.
We're doing it.
Done.
All right, we just made that
plan.
plan.
And then me and Quinn and Fiona can like be NPCs that pop in every now and again.
I'm a cat. I'm a cat folk.
So I don't think Quinn could sit through it right now either.
Yeah, it's
He's
5, 6 is when you get to that like cusp of
sure.
exactly.
Anyway.
All right. So again, thank you so much, Deborah, for coming on.
Thank
you, Quinn and Edna and Fiona, for being awesome kids. You guys, thank you for listening to us for this special and watching this Dragon Talk special episode with Deborah Ann Wall. The 4th grade premiere is July 31st at 5 p.m. Pacific time. If you're listening to this after that, doesn't matter because it'll be on demand on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/DND. You can watch all the episodes of Force Grey as they happen on a weekly basis, and all the awesome other great content that we have going on the D&D Twitch channel, including me, Greg Tito, talking D&D news before Dice Camera Action today, which is going to start at I'm going to start at around 3:30. Which is in a half hour, and Ryan and Sean are looking at me very sadly. Then we will get back to Dice Camera Action with the Waffle Crew with Chris Perkins at 4 p.m. today.
Love it.
All right. Any other closing things?
No.
Where can they follow you on Twitter?
At Shelly Moo.
I'm at Greg Tito. Wizards is at Wizards_DND. If you have any Dungeons & Dragons questions, you can go to dungeonsanddragons.com, and we will answer them on the website. There is dragonmag.com is where you can find Dragon Plus, which issue 14 has been out for a couple of weeks, and it is amazing, chock full of stuff about Tomb of Annihilation, the new storyline, which all of these shows are previewing, and it's coming out on September 19th, in-game stores September 8th. HasCon, Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms.
Oh my God.
Plane Shift Amaket. Okay, I'm out here. Thank you, guys. You're the best.
Bye-bye.
We'll talk to you another time.
Bye-bye.
Bong bong.
Bing bong.